Present.
Mr. Clemens?
Here.
Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Ms. Jones? Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. House?
Here.
Mr. Harrell is absent. Mr. Ray Morris?
Here.
Ms. McCarroll?
Here.
Mr. Ralph?
Ernie.
Got it.
All right, moving to old business. Discuss and review the master drainage plan for our parish.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we start tonight, can we have a 10-second moment of silence for Jeff Averitt and the family?
Sure. Everybody, now for a moment of silent meditation, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to old business and discussions. Anybody have anything they want to bring up with old business? So kind of, talking to certain people, as a drainage district, we have to sort of kind of get a little bit of traction with this where we can get some funding to kind of make things happen that we need. I believe we're going to probably have to try to get some kind of agreement with some kind of government entity. I know they have a new form, District 8, maybe we can get with them and figure out if there's some way for us to work together, do certain things, and progress District 8 as a parish-wide drainage, along with District 8, and help them get funding and help us get funding. I don't know all the legalities of that, but it's something that I think would be the right direction for us to start trying to move. I would entertain any comments or suggestions on that, thoughts or anything. Yes, sir.
Primarily, we're looking at a tax issue. For them to get funding, they're gonna have to pass some taxes. And the fact that we have been split up into various districts like this, and each district votes their own taxes, makes it very difficult to bind them all together now. I believe,
I don't know that we're trying to bind them together, but I do know there was some funding talked about originally when we were formed as a group. For us to get that funding, we have to be part of like another government entity, I believe, to have a cooperative effort. And once again, I don't know the legality of it. It's just kind of the front end just thinking. I mean, we were told we had some money available, but nobody seems to know where to get it or, how to apply for it.
I believe when they told us to petition council, we did that, and the other option to us was District 7, watershed issue, which the initial monies all went to the far fringes of the district.
We just gotta make it noticeable.
I'm sorry.
So we just gotta make it noticeable and get some
Yes, sir.
public reaction to
Something
make
more.
it happen.
The first couple of weeks we were formed, we started coming with the idea of coming up with some ideas. And my ideas that I had weren't very expensive, they were cheap, and then they had other ideas that were mid-grade expenses and some higher expense stuff. And, we discussed as a group, maybe saying, all right, let's put all those out there, let's see what all we come up with and all we think. Maybe give a priority list. Here's some low-funded stuff, medium-funded stuff that's going to take more money than normal. And I feel like one of the things that we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Randy's standing up there at the podium, so he can help guide this statement or conversation. But the parish council, we have no power whatsoever. But we are, what I feel like we are is a second voice for the parish council, if you will. They got all these different things they're dealing with, drainage being one of them. They can't all put all their focus on drainage. We can't, because that's what this committee is, a drainage. So anything, I think at some point we revisit the idea of doing some kind of outline, phase 1, 2, 3, however you want to frame it, because as of right now, we're doing nothing. Nobody's doing nothing. not us, we can't do anything, but the council's not doing nothing that we propose, because we haven't proposed anything but once. Anyway,
But we're making headway, because you can look in the audience and.
oh, absolutely.
People on television can't see it, but look, we have
We have
way more people than we've had in the past.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this is an important committee, but you've asked, what do we think we should be doing? And I think that every week, we come up here and we just bounce a bunch of ideas around, and we've gained a lot of knowledge from that. But now, I feel like at some point, we need to put on paper and say, hey, look, this is each of us put on paper, this is my top 5 things we should do. And then somehow or another, somebody looks at it, whether the council looks at it, or one person here, 2 or 3 or whatever, looks at it and says, hey, this is doable, this isn't doable. And maybe have lunch with a councilman so that our idea is more approachable to the councilman. Whatever, so far, I think I'm just kind of spinning my wheels right now, saying the same thing, but
Every time we do that, it comes back to funding. Until we find the funding, we're not gonna do that.
well, we've only done it once. We've only approached them with something once. But what I'm saying is we approach them with 4, 5, 6 things. You know, my staff approaches me all the time with stuff I turn down, but every now and then they've got that brilliant idea that I like. And I'm like, holy cow, this is good. Had they stopped, we wouldn't have had that idea, you know?
Mr. Gillette.
I think what Mr. McMahon's saying is exactly right. I agree with everything you said, Ron. We have to start somewhere. One of the things I came up with an answer when he was talking about Deborah. I don't know the legalities just like the chairman does, but it's my understanding this group will not be able to get any money unless they are tied into a government entity. And that government entity could be a drainage district that's already formed. Any one or all of them, it doesn't matter. And what that allows you to do then is make an outline of how you go about once you become a government entity. That government entity is going to give you the power to fill an application out, or if you need a map or a study or whatever you got to do, you have to make that outline. That's where you're going to need professional people to come in to sit here and you say you're entertaining proposals. Okay, those proposals you're entertaining is you let those people come put their best, those engineers put their best foot forward. Those are the guys that get the money, y'all. Those engineers, they know how to do it. You, environmental people, companies, engineers, they combine, they piggyback together. And as a parish-wide drainage committee, you're looking at something that's gonna help the whole parish, not just District 8, not just District 4 or District 1, but the whole parish. My opinion is there's no worthier project out there than to make a channel to the North Pass. And that would not only help Livingston Parish, but Ascension Parish, East Baton Rouge Parish. So that would automatically put you on the top of the list. Because that's when people from the state came here and talked to us. They told us that, you have to help. It's a regional thing, and the more people you help, the higher you rate it. So I would suggest, like Ron said, get all your projects together, start entertaining proposals for something. I had an example, but you may have another example. Put it on the meeting, advertise it, and send invitations out to the engineering groups or whatever you got to do. This is going to allow the money to come to you as an entity. Now, the legal question that the chairman brought up, I have the same concerns he has, is I do not know if this citizen group is signed a CE. I don't know if the government, in a government agreement, can be signed by the citizen group. It may be that the council would have to, as a whole, vote to allow you to do that. I know the drainage districts can sign and don't need any vote from the council. Okay, so if 8, which me and Shane belongs to, was to agree, the majority of those members to sign the agreement with you, we would have to get legal advice to see if that could be done without council approval. That would be my question, what is. But the bottom line, if you're gonna go out and get grant money, you can't do it on your own because you're not a legal government entity right now. You're just a committee.
So does District 8 have legal representation?
We had just got started. We don't have any legal representation, but as 4 members, we don't even have our funding yet. You know, we most,
We pat on the same boat then.
yeah, we're on the same boat. We just got started about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and we're working those issues out now. Y'all got started maybe a couple months ago, and you got educated, and you're learning a lot of stuff. The great ideas I've heard already. I was telling someone earlier, just imagine if you wasn't appointed by the council. The parish council appointed each and every one of y'all. If you wasn't appointed by the council and you were just a citizen group, what would you do? You would do the same thing you're doing now. You would make people aware of the situation. You would get your Facebook page. You would go ahead and start out informing, educating. And that's what you're doing now. And the bottom line is, no, there's not no money right now, but there is a procedure to go get money. And so if you want to work in that direction to go get money, then that's what you have to do. If you want to just be an advisory board and come up with ideas and present that to the council, then you can do that also. It's just your choice on how you want to operate. The bottom line is, y'all, we can't continue doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And it's major, the flooding is getting worse. The temporary pumps they put in since a couple weeks ago, pump into the Mid River, they're gonna reverse those and pump into New River, which is all the time deal. So that's additional pumps all the time now. So this situation will get worse and worse.
Randy, my understanding is that Steve Kistler is our parish representative to the District 7 watershed initiative. Are you aware of where he's at and make a proposal about the channel for the won't pass?
No, sir, I'm not. Haven't got any information on that.
Yes, ma'am.
So when y'all became a committee, Randy's right, y'all can't necessarily request funding or sign CDAs because you guys are not an actual governmental entity. Y'all are a committee and he's right. Y'all are here to do advisory stuff, plan, put together, figure out where the problems are. And just a personal opinion, this parish lacks a lot of data. We don't have the data, so y'all's next item, like the Facebook page, and collecting all that and figuring out what needs to be done. You guys as a committee can report to the council and can ask the council to pay for maps, studies, and things like that after you put a proposal together. The council can pay for it for the committee, but the committee doesn't have they don't have the opportunity to get the funding yourselves or apply for the funding, things like that. So that's just.
That's correct, what you said.
And look, we do have, like, they've ran a complete AD basin study. So we're ahead in a lot of respects to some of the studies.
Yeah, when this was first formed, I was the one in the office that sent out the letters to the different municipalities, the different mayors. Ms. McCarroll's the only office that responded. You know, there is a lot of information out there, but, and studies that have been done, there's a lot of studies that we've spent money on in the parish between the gravity drainage districts, the parish, FEMA, somebody did something we talked about last night. So there are studies, it's getting that information and then compiling all the other issues that we have and trying to create a plan.
Anything for anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Murphy.
Just wanted to mention an idea that's being tossed around, and I feel like it's a pretty good idea. One of the councilmen had, and it was to form a super board. Super board, the council would write out what their role and responsibility would be. But the vision at the moment, the super board would be made up of a member or representative of each gravity drainage district, and then a member of the parish administration. and we may even could expand it a little bit more than that. That hadn't been actually decided at the moment. I'd like to put this on the council agenda, maybe next meeting or the next. But one of the thoughts of the super board's responsibility would, be able to, work with you all, obtain the ideas of what you believe is important drainage improvement projects, and then as a unified effort, go after funding and, prioritized project funding to improve the drainage in Livingston Parish. So to me, that's one way this group could be beneficial, obtaining data, working with the super board, working with the administration, working with the council, identifying those projects, which you believe is important, based off of public input, and your work to determine that. And then, to me, working with that super board, if all parties involved could agree and get along and be unified, there is a lot of money out there that's available, that could improve drainage in Livingston Parish. That's just my opinion, of one way that.
My personal thoughts on that, that's just another board that the
Well-
parish is gonna have to fund, and
I don't think it would have to be a paid board members. I don't think that the parish would have to fund it. I mean, my thought would be they could meet somewhere, on a routine basis. But my thought is you've got a lot of ideas out there on how to improve drainage, right? And to me, when you go after this funding, from state governments and federal governments, and you have your legislators and everybody pushing for certain projects, this would be a way of being unified and saying, hey, this is what the people of Livingston Parish would like to prioritize in drainage. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's a done deal yet, but it's just a thought. I'd like to, get y'all's feedback. The intent at the moment is to put this on the council agenda so that it could be discussed to see if, the committees and people of Livingston Parish and the council and those involved think it would be a good idea. I don't know if I said it already, but, to me, that group would work with Mr. Steve to prioritize and go after government funding. So, to me, that would be
my understanding was that Mr. Mulcarroll and Mr. Kessler, they were the ones reaching out for this grant money. We've reached out to try to have them come tonight. I don't know if they made it or not. It was going to kind of ask them what their process of acquiring money, what's your process? Because, yes, sir.
To my knowledge, at this time, Mr. Kessler has already worked with the funded drainage districts. There are projects that he is busy getting money for. I don't know if he's working with you or not. I know he's working with 2 and 1.
Yeah, and I know that he is
Getting money
doing
sent
some
out.
grants, but what's his process to prioritize which ones he goes after? Like, that would be a main one of my concerns. So, Mr. Kessler, what's your criteria for 1, 2, 3, 4 of securing funding? And I mean, I'm sure he has some method to which ones he picks. But, I mean, I don't know. I know that he has secured funds, but I don't know what his criteria was to secure them.
Probably a good idea to establish relationships with this committee and Mr. Kessler.
Yeah, well, we
Trying.
tried to
We're
reach out.
working on
We
that.
tried to reach out and get them to come. And I may have been a schedule conflict, I'm not sure. But we're trying to reach out, and we need to understand how they work for us to be able to understand, hey, well, we could prioritize what our needs would be. If we know the criteria that they're using, we can funnel what we see as a need to that criteria and cut some of the legwork out for them, help them out.
I just wanted to say one more thing before I sit down too, is I know Gravity Drainage District 8 is unfunded at the moment, and we're currently trying to identify what the best way is to fund Gravity Drainage District 8. You could rededicate some existing taxes, or you can go after some new funding, and we're working through that decision. And, but once we are funded, I'm very confident that, you know, in some way, shape, or form, Gravity Drainage District 8 will be funded within the next year. I do feel that way. I feel very confident about that. And we're very interested in working with y'all, listening to y'all's ideas and inputs on how to improve drainage in Gravity Drainage District 8, which makes up 80% of Livingston Parish.
And it's at the bottom.
Say
It's
that
at the
again?
bottom, you know, it's at the bottom of the parish.
Well, no, actually, it's from about Highway 447 all the way to Tangipahoa Parish, and then it runs from, you know, Marpole, French
Yeah, when I say
Settlement.
bottom, I'm
All
talking
the
about
way
where
to
the
St.
water
Helena.
goes, where the water goes is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
where you need to start drainage.
Yeah, yeah, but it does go all the way to St. Helena Parish too. It's big, it's massive.
So it's on the east side.
It's east at 447, but it's from St. Helena to Lake Marpole, from Tangipahoa Parish to 447. I mean, it's humongous.
When you get below 5
It's
and
it's
1,
huge.
it goes all the way to the west side.
You said it's about 70% of there.
80.
80.
It's big. It's gonna be a good turn in the right direction for Livingston Parish to get that drainage district funded. It really, really is. Yeah.
It's the unincorporated area, really. It's just the
Yes, sir.
unincorporated area.
We spent 3 months talking about who does what, who Mr. Kistler is, who Mr. Kistler's not, who people are, who people aren't, forming super boards, forming these boards to figure this out, figure that out. So I think we need to start making some ideas. I think we should do this. I think we should do that. And an idea that I have, and I'll go ahead and start that right now with a conversation. I think council, I think we as a board should discuss approaching the council and telling the council that we heard from this, the drainage that we've been talking about. Now just watershed.
Watershed.
Now, is watershed the only way to control drainage? I don't know, but this is the only thing that's been presented, and it looks pretty darn good. So I would say that me, where I sit, I would say, man, if the council would adopt the water drainage shed and then tell other engineers, prove me wrong, you have 3 months to do it, but the council adopts a parish-wide drainage plan. And anybody who wants to build a subdivision has to show the council how they're not going to destroy that natural drainage. Now, I've said this to somebody before, and they said, what if somebody has 100 acres and they want their kids to have 20 of it and build a house? That's fine, let them build one house. One house shouldn't destroy that drainage, and you multiply that time multiple people over the parish, it should still be all right. We're talking about putting a 500 home subdivision, 200 home subdivision, which I'm all about subdivisions, but just show how you're not gonna destroy that natural drainage. Now, I told y'all from the beginning, I'm the dummy of the bunch when it comes to drainage. If there are more plans out there, have the engineers come to us and prove me wrong. So that is my suggestion. I would like, and if y'all shoot it down, then shoot it down. I don't care. I'm still gonna sleep and eat tonight. But I feel like at some point, we've got to come up with an idea and start talking about it. And the idea I have is to approach the council and talk to them about the advantages of adopting a parish-wide drainage program, and for you build houses, help us figure out 2, 3, 4 home, you know, if a small townhome complex comes up, do they have to prove to the council they're not gonna destroy drainage? You know, at what point?
I think all that happens with the planning committee, so with, planning and zoning, I wanna say.
But has the parish adopted? And then if Walker, if the drainage of Walker or drainage of Denham or 2 or 5 or whoever they are,
we
wants to
got-
do something, they have to approach the council and say, hey, this is how we're gonna drain this water from here to here. However, our initial way doesn't match the watershed, so now we gotta do it this way.
Yes.
Any commercial development has 3 engineers review it before they ever do anything. They have their engineers draw it. They have to, if they're in our drainage district, we have to review it and approve it. The parish has to review it and approve it.
Okay.
So it's got to be
So-
reviewed and approved 3
so-
times.
again, I'm the dummy of the group, so help me explain so people on TV who don't understand it as well as y'all do can understand it as well. Is that you have to explain how to get water from here from point A to point B, or to follow a parish drainage plan?
You have to prove that the neighborhood that you're building is not gonna output more water than it would.
So you could destroy the watershed as long as you're not gonna destroy your neighbors.
I think
That's
the
the
question,
point.
Go ahead.
along the lines of what he's saying, all these things are built on standards, right? Water retention ponds and all. It seems to me that our climate is changing. We don't get little rains anymore. Here lately, the lowest I've got in my house was 2 inches in one rainstorm. So I think maybe we need to take a review of what we've been doing in the past, the council, and re-examine our standards and see if the retention ponds are adequate under the new normal. And also maybe look at elevations on houses. How much should a person be able to displace water by building up their lots? I think that is some recommendations that we could make to the council too.
So look, and I know this because I do build houses, so
Right.
they have those policies in effect. Okay,
And I know.
so look, so one of the criteria is you have to be 1 foot above the flood elevation. That's outside of municipalities, that's for the parish.
Right.
Now, in certain municipalities, you can be at the flood elevation, so that's 1 foot lower that you can be with your slab. So if you're putting dirt there, so the alternative would be to build on piers.
Well, but if someone's in a flood zone and they build up their house 8 foot to get out of it, they displaced so many cubic feet of potential flood water. That's gonna go somewhere to the next flood. Should they be allowed to do that, or should it be built on piers? That's the kind of stuff I think that the parish needs to take a hard look at.
But the piers are gonna displace the water as well.
A pier's not gonna displace as much water as a solid, mound of dirt.
What I understand is that one of the things they're looking at is water retention, but they were gonna exempt everything that was, and the number wasn't carved in stone, they were exempt everything 2,000 square feet and below, which means homes would be not be a part of it. But larger businesses would be, if they want to raise up a very large section, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 feet, they would have to provide an equal number of cubic feet of water retention on the site, on nearby.
It was 5,000 or something,
5,000.
5,000. But that also included any storage buildings or anything else. So look, a 2,200 living house is around 4,000 square feet. The footprint with carport, porches, it's around 4,000, 4,200 give or take. And if you put up a metal building or a shed for your camper, well, then you're over the 5,000 foot mark. Now you're having to put detention ponds on your neighborhood lot.
And Journey Churches recently renovated a church on Highway 16, and to build a parking lot, they were required to put in a water retention pond. And it's a dry pond, it's not
Yeah.
one where they start to filter fish.
And look, so the homeowner association in Baton Rouge, we're looking at building a new building. We're gonna have dry retainers. And there's certain materials that we can use that slow the rate of water. Because there's a creek right by there. So you can't just dump all your water right into the creek. So there's certain products that we're gonna use, to slow the flow of the water. It's gonna be a retention pond. It's gonna control how fast the water's getting in there. There are a lot of other ideas out there, but I believe you could get 15 engineers and you could have 16 different ideas. I mean, and not saying that one's right or wrong. I'm not an engineer to be able to argue it either way.
No, but
But
I noticed just since 2016, there are two huge subdivisions going in by my house. I mean, very close. And it has already changed the drainage and the way it goes. And the water that we have after heavy rain is double from what it was before. Because they have changed it on going to the canal.
look, back in the seventies when they built the Interstate 12 through
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they put a dam right through the parish.
And that,
I would like to go back to wonder if our committee wants to explore an idea to give to the council to approach as a parish-wide drainage.
Are we not under that with this watershed initiative?
I don't
from
know that the
No.
Livingston
state?
Parish Council has adopted the watershed.
I think the state's mandated.
No, I actually reached out to Rochelle to ask her for some information that we might have for our Facebook page. And she said that they are introducing it, and of course, if you're going to apply for money, then you kind of have to be on board, but there is no standard. You have to join this, this is what we're going to do.
There is, you don't have to.
No, I mean, you can,
Like, if you don't want their money, you just don't participate.
pretty much.
I may be coming
And they're not
across,
following through that you have to stay in the watershed initiative, like, line, from top to bottom.
Watershed's only one thing of
Right.
many, so you can't
Right.
just adopt one thing.
I may
Right.
not be coming across very clear and it's just coming out wrong or something. But I'm just saying, I think that would be pretty novel concept for the parish to adopt. Would the parish council even be interested in something like that? Where you adopt a drainage plan and any district that wants to do drainage for something,
Yeah.
Master drainage plan is
Right.
why we're here. We're a committee for the master drainage plan.
okay.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're under. is the
We're under
master
that.
drainage plan. So we're
All right.
already here.
So I take nobody wants to vote on my idea. That's good.
I'm
Look,
not-
I can get shot
No.
down. I don't get mad at getting
No.
shot down.
We're not
That's
shooting
okay.
it
I
down.
think it sounds great.
I'm not shooting you down, I'm just saying we're a
I think we
committee
ought
of the
to
water
be,
review.
I mean, I'm thinking that we are, Mr. Mack, can you clarify if we have a,
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm not an expert and by no means, but I just kind of wanted to if I could, help clarify. Okay, so a master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish, the entire parish, in my opinion, would be a wonderful thing. I've actually been communicating and trying to push for a master gravity drainage plan since 2017. And there's still talk about it today, right? I think the Livingston Parish Council had passed a resolution that the Livingston Parish Administration provide some matching funds so that the Livingston Parish Administration would go after some type of grant, government grant funding to, I guess you could say, develop a master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish. Now, in the actual master plan, there's a master plan, right, for Livingston Parish, right? In that master plan, it talks about a master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish. Now, the master plan and the master gravity drainage plan can be changed, right, as it'd be kind of like a working document, right? But to me, the master gravity drainage plan would identify, improvement projects. It would identify, the watersheds that exist within the parish, right? And it may, if it was the wishes, of those involved with writing the master gravity drainage plan, identify, where certain amounts of dirt fill could, I guess you could say, be developed, and maybe where some subdivisions shouldn't be, and all that type of stuff. And I think it does kind of, in some way, shape, or form, go hand in hand with zoning, So, but I just kind of wanted to clarify. Okay, so there's watersheds in Livingston Parish. There's watersheds in Livingston Parish. One of them, I think Shane spoke about, is the Amite watershed. You've got the Tickfall watershed. You've got the Natalbany watershed. That type of stuff, right? Those are all individual watersheds. Now, I got the exact name of it, but the Louisiana Watershed Initiative right? That's actually a different thing, you know, that was an initiative put forth by the governor for, I guess you could say, different regions to have committee members such that they could identify as a group what drainage improvement projects would benefit a large area, right, and fund those drainage improvement projects. So just wanted to speak and try to help clarify that. Now, I would support any idea or any way, shape, or form, you know, some type of work, you know, to develop a master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish, because I think it's good to have a plan, you know, and then they go put forth the effort and the resources to follow that plan, that well-designed plan, you know, to improve drainage rather than just everybody going around trying to figure out and do their
One question,
Yeah.
so right now, do we have a master drainage plan?
For Livingston
that's-
Parish.
For Livingston Parish that is adopted?
No,
No.
we do not. We do not, but I think that would be a good thing. And I think that Randy, I don't want to misspeak here, but I think that Randy initiated some type of funding, some type of government funding. That would be the administrative, Livingston Parish administration, right, funding. But there was funding set aside that he can speak on, you know, that you all could try to work with, you know, to get that master plan implemented, developed, written, all that good stuff. And I think Randy's going to talk about that right now.
Could you clarify something for me?
I'll try.
And it is my understanding, only because I have been a member of the master plan committee
Mhm.
for the last 2 years,
Mhm.
and that there was a master plan developed and paid for at about $250,000 in 2012. What
Correct.
year was that?
It's about that time
Mr.
frame.
Burns, in 2012.
Mhm.
So there was a plan, and it dealt with a master plan for all of Livingston
A
Parish.
drainage plan or just a
It,
master?
it was threefold. It was a total master plan. It included drainage, infrastructure, and zoning. So it was, I've got it at home, I didn't bring it, but there is something there. It is outdated, but because of the 2016 flood that brought to light so many problems that we have in Livingston Parish, one being I-12. But it was the beginning of, and it is a master plan for all of Livingston Parish, dealing with those three issues: drainage, infrastructure, and zoning. Now, it is my understanding, only because I've been on the master plan committee for 2 years, that the council decided to take the zoning part of that out of the master plan committee, and that President Riggs and Mr. Backlund and Mr. Gerlinghouse have kind of taken that on in another direction. And then this committee was formed dealing with drainage issues.
Taken out of the master plan?
Out of the master plan committee. So what we are left, Mr. Burns is the head of that committee, that we are left on the master plan committee with infrastructure issues. And we developed infrastructure, roads. So we developed over our 2 years as being a committee, and 1 year COVID in there, but we developed a prioritization of needs for roads and traffic in the parish. And we have prioritized that through the information that we gleaned from the 2012 Master Plan Committee. We met with Mr. Burns, and members of the committee met with all the mayors, the council, and we together as a group developed a list of prioritizing roads. Mr. Burns even met with people at the state level, and that's what we did on that portion of the master plan as far as infrastructure dealing with roads. And it's been well received, and Mr. Burns went before the council, and it was presented, and I don't know that it was adopted. I'm not sure of the legal term that it was, but it was presented. So, you know, there is a master plan. It is certainly outdated because of the flood of 2016, the flood in August and in March of 2016. We had two big water events here that y'all are very well aware of. Plus the amount of construction, commercial and residential development that has caused issues within the parish. So there is some kind of bones there that we might could take a look at and work from that. Also, as just an aside from what you were saying, it is my understanding that we have two well-developed drainage districts on the west side of the parish. Is that my understanding? They're very well funded.
Three.
Three, okay. They're very well funded. They can go after monies. They've got the ability to secure grants, and they've got the ability to hire professionals to do that. I mean, that's a lesson to us in an unfunded district, that you have to get professionals involved. You need some funding to really get some things done. And also, when you talk about that, when you talk about parish-wide, each municipality, city, the town of Walker, the town of Denham Springs, the gravity drainage districts, Albany has, and they all have rules and ordinances, things that we abide by. So we've got a new subdivision development coming in Albany. That developer looks at our ordinances. What the parish passes, what the parish has for unincorporated areas doesn't apply to the town of Albany. So, you know, legally, I don't know what would be priority or would have precedent over something else. Could the parish come in and tell me, as the mayor of Albany, you have to do this. This is now your new standards. When I have an ordinance on the book that was passed saying, no, ours is a little different. But there and again, that's where, you know, we all need to sit down and discuss this. When you're talking about an unincorporated area, an incorporated area, a funded gravity drainage district, an unfunded gravity drainage district, those are all legal entities that someone else can't come in and mandate something. So it's just throwing all of this out there.
I just want to say, you talking about the well-formed drainage districts. 25 years ago when they were started, they wasn't well-formed and well-organized. We started with, Drainage 5 started with a skidder that they got from the parish on loan and a beat-up truck and a tractor. That's where they started for years. And then they started slowly getting money every year after that. So you have to start somewhere. There's not gonna,
Absolutely.
but the longer you wait to start, the further behind you. So, I mean,
I'm gonna go sit down. I just want to say one thing. There is a master plan, and all of y'all can get a copy and read it. And it definitely talks about drainage in there. My understanding after reading it is there's no master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish. I mean, it just talks about the watersheds, and it talks about drainage. It talks about the drainage districts, you know. But there's no master gravity drainage plan for Livingston Parish. There is a master
60 or
plan.
65.
There's no master gravity drainage plan.
Mr. Blat.
I'll try to tie everything together. Everything Mayor McCall said is correct. Y'all only represent the rural areas. You don't represent anything in Keene, anything in Springfield, anything in Albany, anything in Walker, anything in Denham Springs. It's the rural areas only. That's what you represent. Drainage districts go into rural areas and municipalities, but this committee here is only on rural areas, okay? That's unincorporated areas. unincorporated. What Mr. Mack was stating earlier about the money is set aside, okay? And when we set it aside, we envisioned that you coming to the council and y'all was gonna have a master drainage plan, and you was gonna say, I need X, Y, Z to finish this plan. You wanna put it in a book, or you wanna have a study, or you wanna, whatever you needed to get done. I don't know what it takes to make a master drainage plan. I don't know if anybody does, but it may be that you need professional advice. You may need attorneys, you may need engineers, you may need something, okay? But you make that outline and you come up with a price, and then you come to the council and you can say, okay, we need 25,000, 40,000, 50,000, whatever you need to make this master plan. You present your best case, and 5 people is what, 5 votes is what you need a majority. So I would look at maybe in steps. First, let's make the plan. 2, we go after the money, or 3 might be, or 2 might be that you educate the public. But try to define 1, 2, 3, like Mr. Ron said earlier, action items that you're gonna get done. You know, once you get those action items defined, and then it may be that you want to educate the public first, or it may be that you want to provide a plan, but you need help. Try to get those 1, 2, 3, 5 numbers, things that he mentioned earlier, and work in those directions. And you can form subcommittees off of here. You don't have to have this whole committee. The chairman could appoint 2 on this side, 2 on that side to work out the details on one item. The other 2 can work out details on something else, you know. But anything you do that takes a vote of your council, you have to have all of your committees to do that. You need the majority of them. But I would either work on educating the public, or asking for more help or volunteers, or establishing my master drainage plan. I would do all those things before I would even try to think about going to look for money right now, because if you don't have a plan, how you gonna get the money? You know, I mentioned something that put us on top of the list, I feel like, but how does that work in relationship with the plan? I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So if I was y'all, I would try to, maybe you can work both those items at the same time. Maybe you can create a plan and educate the public at the same time. But I like Ron's idea about getting 2 or 3, 4 action items together, prioritize them and work in that direction.
Thank you. You got something else to say?
No, I'm just saying, why don't we get started with item 1?
I agree.
Item 1.
I'd like to see a study on the major watersheds in the parish. Beaver Creek, Coyell, and out. Apart from the rivers that border both sides. I'm talking about you move down one level. If we just had numbers on those 3 major waterways, we could identify some choke points. Up there at District 2, you got King Market Road, there's a bridge there, it's a choke point. Again, on Highway 16, there's a choke point. There's places like this out throughout the parish.
Name those 3 places you said.
Beaver Creek, what was it?
What were the other 2?
At King Market Road and Beaver Creek where it crosses Highway 16. 2 major choke points. Now Lawrence, she knows because water came up their backyards because of that choke point there at Highway 16.
Kistler's already on that, but he's got to do the full cleaning and snagging before they can do the flow without the snagging in it, is what he's told me. So
And
they
it's
have to
something-
finish the cleaning and snagging before they can do the flow chart.
And something Randy brought,
So
he threw out a
Steve is
number of
working on
$50,000.
those 2 items that he listed. Steve
he
Kistler
listed-
knows something about that?
They're gonna do the whole parish after, but they have to get rid of what they call artificial debris, which is flood debris, not trees and stuff.
So
It's
can they do
cars,
this study?
refrigerators, and all that stuff.
unless
At
it
the same
starts
time?
growing grass.
They
in
gotta
the
get it
pile.
cleaned out first.
If it starts growing grass in the pile, then the Army Corps of Engineers takes over.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I pulled up the master plan, and this is kind of what I'm hearing, so just giving a little direction here. So in one part of the master plan, when it talks about drainage, it says, in Livingston Parish, each drainage jurisdiction manages its own inventory and map of drainage systems as resources allow. Coordination among the various drainage authorities in cooperative and informal. So they they don't have to communicate, and if they do, it's super informal. Responses to blockages and other issues are often undertaken by the party with the best available resources, even when the problem occurs in areas outside their jurisdiction. Not necessarily, but it is what it is. There is no comprehensive inventory or mapping of drainage features in the parish. That's like the most important thing. So
I think that's what I
if-
just said.
And then,
Yes.
So I just, that's what
So
I want to say.
say that last sentence you just said.
So there is no comprehensive inventory or mapping of drainage features in the parish. So,
That's it.
direction here, if you guys email me, tell me right now, if y'all have drainage areas that y'all know need to be fixed, that y'all know need to be prioritized, I'm an Excel junkie, I do it every day here. Send us stuff, and we can start putting it together, figuring out what district it is, and giving y'all the information to talk about. And to create that plan, because we can get with Gravity 2, 5, and 1 all day. And Mr. Clemens has been to a lot of Gravity 2 meetings. He knows. I'm like, I want to know every culvert that's crushed. I
Exactly.
want to know everybody that's flooding on these rain events. Like, I wanted them to take our district into quadrants and just say, these are the issues that we have here, these are the issues that we have here, and get a complete, the data of our parish.
Okay.
That's what's lacking.
So that could be item one, and we can educate the public on Facebook, the advocate, et cetera, at the same time.
Exactly.
To report those things.
And asking, and I know rates and rates is my worst nemesis, but getting on there and figuring out where people are having drainage problems, especially the people that have large drainage accounts in back there, that would just give y'all invaluable
Yeah.
information. So that's just a start.
And that's exactly what I've done in the town of Albany, as small as it might be. You have to identify that first. And then, and as, since I've been there, I have remediated quite a few of those issues that have been lingering for years. But you just have to take one bite of the apple at a time. And I know we're talking a much, much bigger issue here parish-wide than that. But I do agree is, as in order for us to move forward, we have to make a list, identify them, prioritize them, find out where the money is, and then if it needs to hire a professional, then at least we will be able to say,
This is what we want to do.
this is what it is, and us as a group will have to sit down, and I know, I'm gonna do what I can for Albany, and that's just like us working with this list of roads. What was priority was is Jubin Crossing. My 43 four-laning it is number 8 on the list, and it's about 15 years down the road. But I know at one time it's going to be number 1. But I understand where the parish is and the growth is and the issues that we're dealing with as a whole. And I know that Jubin Road Crossing, something that we've got to get that done, that passed, those millions and millions of dollars spent before they can put $4 million over there in Albany. But hopefully we won't be like Jubin Crossing and well, maybe we will.
Yeah.
But, I think that's what maybe we need to do is to sit down and make those hard decisions parish-wide. Just not an issue that I have in Albany. But we have to really look at how many people does it affect, how many people will it get some help for, that's, but I think, Beaver Creek at Kane and Beaver Creek at 16, we have to look at that, the whole parish, and look at it as us all together. But each one of us identify in each of our districts.
That's what I was just
But
going
like
to
Ron
say.
said, we gotta start with one. Whether
Yes,
it's Beaver
and
Creek
at some
16 would
point in
be
time,
one.
we're gonna have to say, this is the major problem. This will get the biggest
That's what I think.
bang for the buck.
But what if each of our districts, that's our homework, to identify those areas, then come to the table with them to do that mapping and rank those about which.
And then maybe we could
Talking
get
about
with,
the mapping each waterway and knowing what's the base flow? What is the overflow? We get a 2-inch rain,
Studies.
6-inch rain.
Yeah.
Now you take, for instance, again, District 2, they have roughly between 1,000 and 1,200 units that have been approved for new construction that they're working on right now. All that water's gonna go to Beaver Creek. Well, the EPA tells you to expect somewhere around 200, 225 gallons per day generated by each household. So we're looking at 25 to 30,000 cubic feet a day is gonna be dumped into Beaver Creek. That's gonna raise Beaver Creek up about 4 inches. The state highway at Highway 16 isn't gonna handle that. It's not gonna do it. And they don't even have that bridge on a 5-year plan. But that's because we don't have a count of how many gallons, how many cubic feet, and what velocity we have. There's waterways.
Water go after it goes into that creek, where does it flow into?
Where does it flow? And then it eventually into Lake Marpole.
Yeah,
Right.
north blocks up, and then
North
that
Pass.
Marpole gets it all down here, and North Pass is not big enough for water to go
Okay.
through. And the people up above, it has the drainage districts, no matter what y'all do, y'all still getting flooded, right?
All right,
Y'all are gonna get flooded up there until they stop building houses and natural drain, stop putting dirt paths all over the place. Tickfaw River stays muddy now from the dirt coming down, Agent River stays muddy from the dirt coming down. If you don't do some kind of moratorium, Ascension Parish decided that, their president came up with that and wants to stop the development, the houses and the businesses. I agree with Ron on his thing before. We have to make the recommendations, and it's up to the council. If they want to do it, fine. All we can do is make recommendations. But you have to look at the whole thing, wherever the water's gone at. We got Blind River out there going into Lake Marpole. Blind River is 18 feet deep. When it hits the lake is 3 feet deep at the mouth. What happens to that water when it hits that? It stays there, don't it? If you dug out 3 more feet of the lake out there, it will only take 3 more feet of the water out of that river. The rivers stay high, everything stays high. The creeks, they need to be unblocked. I think all branches blocked up over the holes and over there.
It
You have
is.
to get all of those out, and you have to stop building houses behind the other houses, and all you're doing is putting another bunch of rocks in a hole, and you're filling it up.
Lauren, tell them about your list.
Okay, I have a list of everyone's name. If y'all just wanna go around, tell me your name and tell me 1 or 2 areas that you have a problem with. Not, doesn't have to be in super detail. I don't need to know the problem. I just need to know where it's at so I can start the list. Or the first thing I have for gravity 2 is Beaver Creek. That's a problem. So we know that.
2 spots.
You just said, Mr. Ernie just
Is that
said
in your
Blind
district or
River
out of
and
your
Hall
district?
Branch. That's 2.
Is that in
Delight-
Drainage 2 district or is that out of Drainage 2?
It's Drainage 2. And then Mr. Delight mentioned the channel to the north pass. That's right, okay, so we're out to start. So, Mr. Mack, do you have a problem area that you would like to address?
Parker Branch and Little Natal Benning North. They've done it so far up, but, and Parker Branch,
Branch is different.
yes. And I don't know your other district, I just know where I'm at there.
They recently took
I don't mind.
3 out
Okay.
of Hall Branch.
It's Gravity
They did?
Drainage District
Okay.
number 1,
What happened-
District
What
5.
happened to your house?
I give it
Was
2.
that?
What
Wax
happened to your house
Road,
this week when we got more
yes,
water?
several
Thursday than we
places,
should've
and
got?
Forest Delight, where the bridge is.
When it gets down to Tickfaw.
My house stayed pretty dry.
And that's just 2, I have a couple of other.
Well,
The back,
Okay.
the backside,
Not right
Wanted to,
Branch,
you
the
gotta
backside
read
road
it,
Long,
I did what water that is.
started filling up, but I was,
Yeah.
then it goes
Like
into
14s and all
Blood River,
49
and then
cleared
that
out.
goes into Natal Benning, and then
drained
that
out.
goes into Lake
So look,
Marpole.
all the way down,
So,
Warner, they did that
Tickfaw,
bridge.
Lake Marpole. So, if it backs up there, it just
Problem
pushes it.
areas.
I have no idea, but we need to do public awareness.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, but
Mhm.
you need to ask around. I know you have patients who know where the water is.
Whatever that, the 3 culverts that Gary Lewis put in, that's just, the water's just staying there from that last rain we had. Satsuma. Satsuma at Switch Cane isn't draining, and, I don't know what that is, it's just north of that.
That's on our Drainage 5 list already.
That's
agreed.
okay.
But
We still need to.
we followed it down, there's a blockage we cleaned out at the lawnmower shop, we just cleaned that blockage out, but the other one has never been cleaned out.
There you go.
The first one's never been
Yeah,
cleaned out.
yeah.
Okay,
Brown Road,
okay, what's your last name?
Hull,
Okay, Brown Road.
and also, it's not an area, but I guess it's an activity, the illegal dumping of debris in all our waterways. The tires, the refrigerators, the cars.
Yeah, you guys have mentioned some stuff that we're working on at the ordinance level, and that's my baby too.
Like
Okay,
trash-
good.
Trash-wise, trash pickup would be a big one.
And we talked about it last night, so.
What was the outcome of that?
He'll be back.
But
I don't know. We're working on it. They have a couple different ideas of how mandatory trash pickup would go. And so they're talking about.
Didn't we have it at one time?
We did.
I don't know why we lost it.
I don't know how that, I don't know how that worked.
I know that just in 2 years, we have a very, very proactive litter. I have my maintenance people, we pick up litter and cut the grass. And then, because of an agreement that the town had with the parish many, many years ago, they come in and do our lateral ditches. And I've been very proactive in making sure if I see anything that might slow it down, we've told residents, if you buy culverts, we'll put it in for you. Just very, very proactive, and we are seeing some remediation of our flooding in the town.
The parish does that now.
Or it's another thing, for us,
Yes,
it's culverts.
absolutely.
Half the
It
culverts
is.
on Satsuma
It
Road are
is.
half full of
I
mud.
got with the highway department, with the state, and they dug all the state ditches. It's just continuing that we have
I don't
to
think
do.
blowing them out works because the entire ditch, but then if you dig the ditch out, everybody's doing construction based on the elevation it is now. You used to dig the ditch out and all you had to put was a little pond in your yard.
Yeah, Waste management used to do
One
that.
of those things that
It's
or DOT,
to
or
do that.
it's really about bringing everyone
It
together
is.
and working together as a.
Every
That's the question.
Sounds
So where do
like-
we go from here? We have this list.
Wait, we're not even done with this.
Yeah.
What's your problem areas you'd like to address? That gravity two aren't really working.
The two choke points I mentioned at Kings Market Road, the bridge, and the culvert at Highway 16. Something we're talking about here is that the culvert at Highway 16, in engineering terms, is called a partial flume. Partial flume, to be designed correctly, you have to take into account how many diameters upstream and downstream are unimpeded in the flow. But in this case, both of them have hard turns right there. That means that that flume is not designed right anymore. The state says we're not responsible more than 50 feet away from the
So we
road.
need a study, basically.
Need a study.
Or
That's
cut a new
one
path.
there. But
Yeah,
it's,
What's your problems?
What's my problem?
Where do you see? I have.
My problems were the same ones I said into Miss Pat. I believe that somebody had to come
Yeah,
up with those
the
ideas.
channel.
Remember that, Miss Pat?
Yes, sir, I do.
I have line river.
It's the channel.
Let me read the
Reclaiming
things that
property.
we were all supposed to be given. I don't know if y'all kept y'all. Inspect, install, repair, replace culverts, update failed drainage ditches, and create new ones where needed. All right, dig out shallow areas around and remove debris on the small bridges. You have a lot of small bridges that are blocked up in the parish. Widen and deepen the channels at Blind River, Aiken, and Kickfall rivers where they flow into Lake Marple. The channels could be lined with material to stop erosion and keep the stuff from going back. And we have a bunch of other things. Have a combination of water retention ordinances for new developments and parameters for current wet retention ponds that have mechanical pumps to pump down before storms with a predetermined forecast rain event. You know, that makes sense. All right, work with the Livingston Parish Council to ban the use of field dirt in natural drain areas. Work closely with state and federal government regarding protection of wetlands, especially concerning mitigation. That was some of the things we had, and they also had things about garbage cleanup in the rivers and report any litter-filled areas that are blocking drains to the sheriff or whatever. We had a number of things.
We
Sandy Seal gave us that paper that we sent, that Ms. Pat sent in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I requested a legal opinion today about fill dirt and development and wetlands and mitigation, just different things that we had talked about. Y'all can go look at the video from yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's in the works. I mean.
Right.
See, that's some of the things like that Ron said that we can recommend, that I know it's hard to get the parish to do that, and nobody wants them telling that they can't do it.
Well,
But whenever you flood your neighbors and everything,
yeah, in there.
that's what happened in Baton Rouge, at that, what they terrace over there, where they flooded all those houses.
Yeah.
They didn't even flood 2016. They built another housing development right behind it in a drain, and the water can't go out when it rains.
Well, but we can go ahead and gather this information together. Two more.
Mr. Morrison, do you have any problem areas?
Come to the microphone. State your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Steve Forbath. Who or how do y'all get wetland determination?
Army Corps of Engineers.
Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps of Engineers.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's paying them off?
Well, there's wetland banks, so whoever owns the wetland banks, you buy.
I know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our Congressman
Well, that's-
Graves is on the board that oversees their funding.
Okay, well, he ought to be doing something about it
Well, it's
He's
your
trying.
honest
I think
opinion,
he's
he,
trying.
he is working on it.
and stuff, because I
It's a
can tell
racket.
you, there's been houses built in wetlands. I don't like houses. Developments being built in wetlands on a daily basis in this parish. Whenever you got a palmetto flat that's got water oaks, pin oaks growing in it, it's a wetland.
The whole parish. is
All you
wetland.
gotta do is, it's got an encroach soil underneath it. There ain't no water going down through that, because it's basically just white chalk.
I got 280 acres in a no flood zone, and they told me I was 100% flood zone. I mean, 100% wetlands. They gave me a lot to build my house on. So trust me, I know what wetlands bull it is. So everything in Lewis Parish is
Very
wetland. 'Cause
frustrating.
It is.
I'm
So
5 foot
there's a
above and
reason
borderline
why,
ocean.
for the last several hundred years, nobody built houses, except on a very limited base around Livingston, Holden, Walker, Denham Springs, Bergen, Satsuma, because it's all wetlands. Now, every time I look around, I see subdivisions going up. And it just don't jive, people.
They buy mitigation. What they basically do is they buy mitigation.
Yeah, I know
But the
we're
Army
supposed to
Corps-
buy about 2.5 acres for every acre you develop.
Yeah.
So-
They bank,
Parish.
they bank it well, but the Army Corps of Engineers is what's stopping us from cutting that channel
Right?
to get the water from the Amy to Pontchartrain. We can't get it out of Moorpark. Every drop of
Yeah,
water
everybody knows.
that hits the ground in Livingston
How many
Parish
more
passes
years?
through North Pass.
Yeah,
Every
it
drop.
does, it does, it
And
does.
if we can't get it to North Pass, we gotta stop her in the bathtub. But that's the Army Corps of Engineers.
That is, and I don't know what the reason is, I don't have any idea what their reasoning is. But I
I
can
think they
tell you
want to
this
fill in.
much, they dug that diversion canal because they
I
was
can
gonna
text it to you.
relieve flooding,
King George Canal.
okay?
And any other
Well,
canal
they might
that
relieve
shortens the
flooding
flow of the water to
someplace.
the lake.
But down where I live, it's the mouth of the Amite River is completely silted in because there is no more flow that goes through it anymore. Why? Because of that diversion canal. Every time man does something, he creates other problems. And that's just the nature of man. Ain't nothing you or I can do about it. Okay? And stuff. But yeah, I just was wondering how y'all figured out wetlands and stuff.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps of
They
Engineers.
have a formula. where
Well,
they
you
attach
said it
points.
starting with the government. That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
They attach points to a variety of things. If you get south of the interstate, you'll find that most of Livingston Parish is considered natural habitat of the West Indian manatee. I guess because we're too close to the Gulf, and if you've got a creek that feeds in, and you're 60 miles from the coast, you're considered natural habitat for manatee. I can't see a manatee ever getting all the way up Coyote Creek. But that's why Livingston, the town itself,
Well, I
is
know
considered
that
wetlands.
I know that they've caught flounder, in the, let's see, where would that have been at? Oh, it's been way up Tickfall River, almost, well, actually, in Wood River. The reason why I know that happened is, back there several years ago, the water got, we didn't have a lot of water flow. And there was a guy down there raising strawberries, and he was irrigating his crop. And he walked out one morning, and all the strawberries was dead. And it took him a little over a week to figure out the reason why it was, because they pumped salt water out of the bottom of that creek onto that field of strawberries. And it killed him. But salt water, that water came out of the Gulf of Mexico. So, yeah, I guess it's possible that you could have a manatee these days.
Not in the town of Livingston.
Not in the town of Livingston, no.
But it's
no.
considered wetlands
Okay.
here for that reason, among others.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move along a little bit here.
King George Canal mouth, right there about, what is the name of it now, Boondocks or whatever? You can walk across the mouth of King George now.
Boondocks.
You can walk across the canal where the King George crosses, comes under 22 there, or whatever, the 16 still there. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's Prince Albert.
Okay.
But
Who else?
that takes 7 miles of river flow out if it could cut
Got
through the
one more.
swamp and go. Any of them like that, there's several canals like that, they shorten the flow of the water, to speed the water faster to the lake and get it out of
Okay.
natural waterway.
Mr. Moore, do you have anything else?
Yeah, some of the contributors to Beaver Creek that are falling into District 1. They're supposed to be doing a study on that, or they studied it, and got recommendations on what they can do to change the flow. Like, the corner of Highway 16, Lot 18, that don't continually flood there.
16 on October.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Okay, so we have a pretty good
There's
list.
still stuff on
going.
the ditch road.
I can reach out to 1, 2, 5, and 8 and get more, but right now, we'll put this in a spreadsheet, and this will be the. this will
The
be
basic.
And, another thing I wanted to mention, I think some of you guys know that, they got federal money to clean out some of the canals and streams or whatever that, Stephen was talking about. I know that there was one problem area by my house, Clayton Bayou, so like if Gravity 2 comes to y'all, or us, then I can, and y'all say, oh, Clayton Bayou, and I can be like, oh, no, Gravity 2's already taking care of that, the federal, they have money. So it's all about working together.
Okay.
I didn't realize that y'all had not done that yet.
No, but if we
So-
can get that done, and then we can go for the council, that's what we do next.
And look, this should have probably been on a new business, so we're into our new business section.
Oh, yeah.
But
She'll fix
I'm-
that.
We're not, I'm not gonna let y'all break any laws, but
Good.
it is.
I'm trying to
Okay.
move some along.
Yeah.
So
So
do
I got
we-
that started.
Do we need a motion or anything for that?
No, I'm just gonna
Okay.
put the Excel sheet together and y'all will have it and there'll just be a working document. Y'all can send anything, anytime, and that'll be, so when y'all meet next time, it can just be under old business, like, how's all this going?
Okay, so when we get the list and that, we make it into a resolution to present before the council, or how does that work? And who will help us do that? We have,
I mean,
we need an attorney, or
I think
do
that,
y'all?
I think you're really far, you're a few steps ahead.
Yeah.
I think, it's gonna take a lot
I
of
know, I'm
time.
real anxious.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna take a lot of time to collect the data, then y'all are gonna have a meeting, you're gonna have to prioritize it. And
Okay.
then if there's certain things that y'all need, like y'all think there needs to be a study in one place that is unfunded or whatever, then you would bring it to the council, like Mr. Burns did with the roads. You bring it to the council and just ask for their support. And if you need funding, you go to the council and you ask for their, what the funding is, but it has to be a well thought out proposal.
It's
So,
very specific. And then we'd also like to hear from Steve Kistler if maybe if some of these projects that he's already working on about getting
We
some
don't
funding.
want to duplicate
I would
resources.
let y'all, I'm just
Oh, good.
temporary here this time, but, I will reach out to Steve and see
Yeah.
if he will give us a list of what's gonna work on and stuff like that.
Or approve our list, like what, like just check it off or whatever.
Because
I
it-
know they're grabbing from each, there's so much money that they
Yes.
can get, that they aren't prioritizing, I don't wanna say they're not, I don't wanna say they're, but they're putting in the applications for the money, and if they get it, if they don't, they don't. So having a prioritized list, which is what y'all are doing, is going to help them,
Yeah.
the parish and the different districts.
So that is the professionals you're talking about that we kind of have
You're
at
going, at
our
some point in time,
fingertips.
we're gonna have to engage the services of professionals because
Yes.
they're the ones that do the grant writing. Of course, they charge for that. But at least we will, as a group, have, we can present to them because they're not gonna work on my project or his project. They're gonna want to know, as a group, that the council has approved, that this is what they're gonna work on. And as professionals, they will say, well, this project is for the greater good. You know,
They'll take it, the professionals will take it from.
yes.
And so you or somebody will let us know. I'm like Ron, not a dummy, but a novice. So you will let us know and help us know when we are there.
We will know it.
Yes, sir, come up to the mic.
I'm sitting taking it all in toward the end of Lincoln David Watts. I live in Highway 42 in a place called Old Centerville, where the old courthouse used to sit. I live right on Tickfall Road. I was one of the benefactors out of it when y'all cleaned it out the last time, took the trees out. According to my uncle, it was cleaned out in the 50s the same way. I was an absolute advocate of taking the trees out. I was elated to hear that the trees was coming out. We're gonna help the drainage. I don't know the exact dollar figure that was spent on the river, but I can tell you, I can bring you on the river right now and you can't even tell it was ever cleaned out. It's right back like it was, right back to square one. I heard the estimate was around 30 million to clean out Tickfall River. We've had the river's been up a lot in the last couple months. Y'all know we've been getting deluge of rain. We're right back to holding water. My biggest fear is now, I live a great distance north. I live about 5 miles south of Holden and about 7 miles north of the big Tickfall River. I live where it's still clear, some semi-clear, it ain't clear no more. The gentleman said a while ago, it's never been clear. It ain't been clear in a long time. It used to be when I was a kid. Now I'm starting to see tide water where I'm at, 2 to 3 inch fluctuation when the tide goes in and out. At 42, where it crosses, where Tickfall River crosses 42. I live just below Hog Branch. Anybody wants to, y'all key into where I'm at. So, I caught a blue crab in a hoop net about 6 months ago. If anybody knows, that's scary to me. I've been there, my family's been there their whole life. 2016, my house is up on stilts. My house is 56 inches off the ground. I missed it by a great deal in 2016 because my family knew way back 100 years ago to build on the high side of the river. Well, we don't have that issue. My mom and dad lived next door to me. They on a slab, didn't get any water. Missed it. Thankfully, we did. Now, my concern is, and I'm gonna change gears over to a subdivision that was discussed last week here in council, was Livingston Farm subdivision. Livingston Farm subdivision was approved in 2018-19 without any improvements. Just come in there and build you a house. Anybody travels down Highway 63, when you pass Oliver Wheat Road to your right-hand side, there's a RV mobile home, RV park there on your left. And then when you pass up, you see these banners hanging out the road, new subdivision, acreage lots. I've lived where I'm at for, I'm in my 40s. So I've been there my whole life. So where Clyde Blunt Road comes across off Oliver Wheat and ties back into 63, it's a big triangle in there. Well, Clyde Blunt, when I was a kid, was never paved in the bottom down there. It would always drain across. And now they're coming in and paved it so the school bus get through and all these new homes. My concern is they're gonna build a new store on the corner right there and the elevation looks like it's that high. Well, they letting these houses build down here, and I feel for these people. I really do. They got major problems. They do. They come in here last week wanting some help. We letting them build them on the ground. They ain't no field dirt going in for them at all. And if you build a house, you know you need to put a little dirt down and get it up off the ground a little bit.
I own land right there on Clyde Line, exactly where
You
you're
know-
talking about.
you know
But
where I'm
that-
at.
That's all wetland swamp that they've
Yes,
let
sir.
somebody develop.
Correct. I feel for these people. They were sold a bill of goods that ain't so good. Now, the parish come in and paved Clyde Brunt, put some coverage across the thing, and they built a pretty good dam there for them, but I mean, it bleeds off eventually. But we all know, I squirrel hunted and all down in there, deer hunted in there. It's Pine Meadow Flat. I mean, do I want my tax dollars to fix this developer's problem? I mean, I know he went in there and dug a retention pond. That ain't none that filled up. That's over with. So, I mean,
But look, in my opinion, that goes back to the parish and the standards that they have.
absolutely.
That, I mean, and I don't know, I'm sure they take some engineers write up on, hey, this is what it has to have and this is what it needs. Now, if somebody's went over there and checked that or not, I don't have any idea.
Yeah, well, supposedly a drainage study was done. But if you look at, I'm not privy to see the email thread, but I heard in the email that the DOTD knew of the problem in 2019. As far as I know, no house was built there then. DOTD was informed that the culverts was dug out at Clyde Blunt and 63. Well, if they knew there was a problem in 2019, why was the first nail being allowed to be driven in a house to cause a problem for us tax dollars, our taxpayers to have to pay for? In 2019, if you knew there was a problem, how was a house allowed to be built? That's a problem.
Is that when all that mud's coming? I was way up Tickfall River yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing but mud coming
Correct.
down. I was past Leisure Landing. I don't know if you know.
I'm above Leisure Land, yes. I'm above Horse Bluff.
But when we got up there, the tide water, now towards the lake water, it was lake water.
Yes, sir.
And then there was nothing but mud coming down.
It's bad.
And they had to be building something up.
It's bad. I called the EPA about it about a year and a half
They
ago.
come down and
They
look
come
at
and
it.
took a sample of the water and they said, I know what I was talking about.
Well, there's nothing but mud in it.
It's mud, it's bad. I don't know what's
Tickfall River's
changed.
never used to be muddy.
Correct. I mean, I appreciate you cleaning out the river, but I would love somebody, I have the only boat landing in my area. I will gladly bring I have the boat in the water right now. Somebody wants to come take a ride. Tickfall River's fixing to make 2 major changes. I bet the parish don't even know about it. It's fixing to blow through and take about a half a mile of river out. It's cutting through the bank as probably, it's up right now a little bit.
Well,
It's,
yeah, where it makes that
it's,
big curve.
it's just below me. If you look south of 42, straight down, the river makes a hard turn down there. It's fixing to blow through there and take a half a mile of river out. Go past there, it's fixing to cut through and take probably 2 miles of river out and
Yeah.
try to straighten itself out. But the problem is that river wags. It always has moved. It's moved in my lifetime 3 times. It's fixing to move 2 more times.
That's why explain to them about the cut bank side where the current's hitting and then the
Correct.
white bar is building up dirt on the other side.
Yes, my family has property below the bridge where we lost about 70 foot wide of property down there. It just sloughed off. I mean, it's part of living on the river. I understand I live on the river. I take the consequences. I got to buy the water. I understand that. But I don't think my tax dollars, this is my problem for Livingston Farms to figure out their drainage problem that they created. And the parish allowed them to create the problem.
This is where I go back to, and there was no offense meant to Albany
Thank you.
whatsoever.
Oh, no.
But I feel like it spurred some conversation, because my thought was the council should adopt something, and every subdivision that wants to get built has to seek approval to them, or that standard. But maybe it's the mayors and the
Well-
council together adopt, because if Albany's doing something and Walker's doing something and Killian's something different, everybody's doing something different, you know, where are we going? I just feel like
Well,
they come together.
The parish only deals with unincorporated areas. And when you form a town, we form our own governmental entity. So as a parish council and the parish government can't make a law that affects the city of Denham Springs or the town of Albany.
Why can't everybody come together and come to an agreement?
Well,
And,
maybe.
you know, if everybody came together and had an agreement, say, hey, look, we need to work together. Not saying y'all haven't tried, but now it's come to the point where it's almost like, all right, maybe, and again, I'm not government, so I don't know. I know y'all's job's extremely hard, and it's coming from me that just drives to work and goes home, you know.
Well, there again, maybe the parish president and the mayors could get together and form some kind of committee to develop something that would benefit everybody, or that would be cohesive or complementary.
So to add to that, some of the reasons, so I know we have a community rating system for the flood issue, or for flood insurance, for FEMA. So the parish, the reason they have a foot of freeboard is so they can get a higher score on their community flood rating to help reduce the flood insurance. The municipality of Denham Springs already has a high flood rating. They don't need the extra foot of flood rebate. So that's one of the reasons, and I know there are others.
There.
Mr. Patton.
Because another reason is in the unincorporated areas, because most municipalities have certain restrictions that you can and can't do. Because in Livingston Parish, there has been a thing, and it's always been there. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room. They don't want to tell people what they can and can't do with their property.
That's right. We do have some zoning, and
That's it. And we are at the point now where that can't be because, you know, there were 13 people who were killed in 2016 in the flood. This last flood, there were people who died in this flood. That's what will happen. So we are coming to the time where there will have to be some. I know you're not one of those people.
So I have a question, Mr. Mack. So when a new subdivision is brought before the council, I guess Mr. Sam brings it. The council's job, I guess, does the council strictly go by Mr. Sam's recommendation on a neighborhood, or what's the process of a new subdivision getting approved? Is it just, hey, we want to build a neighborhood here? Oh yeah, we need to have a blessing, or is there criteria? What takes place with that?
Okay, so once again, I'm not an expert on this because to be quite honest with you, I haven't had very many subdivision developments, actually 0 in Council 9 district since I was elected 5 years ago. But I think growth is coming, and being a councilman, I've learned a lot by the commercial developments being developed in all the other areas. Now, there is what I feel like is a pretty good process in place, and I'm not saying it's perfect and it doesn't need to be tweaked, and if you find something that you feel like needs to be tweaked, I appreciate you bringing it to council's attention. But okay, so getting back to answering your question, the process, okay, so if you was a developer, you had some property and you wanted to go develop the property, first thing you do is you'd call the planning department and you'd go sit down and you'd have a little meeting with them, and they would kind of go over, I guess you could say, some requirements. And then I think the next phase is, you know, to have your engineer, you know, abide by those requirements and develop a preliminary plat, right? And then you would get on the planning commission agenda. There's actually a planning commission for Livingston Parish. Planning department's involved with that. And there's actually board members on the planning commission that would go and they would review the preliminary plat. And their role and responsibility would be to make sure that the preliminary plat met the requirements of the commercial development ordinance, right? Now, it's just a preliminary plat. It's just a plan, right? After that, the preliminary plat will be presented to the council, right?
So that planning committee, they could make recommendations.
They do, you know,
Yeah,
they
they
make
walk
sure,
it up.
if it doesn't need any waivers and meets all the requirements, then, you know, they recommend it to the council at a meeting after that. And, you know, they'll present it and it'll be presented, you know, with no waivers or, you know, contingency upon maybe something that needs to be addressed or something of that nature. If it needs waivers and doesn't meet the requirements, they'll deny the approval, right? It'll still come before the council, but most of the time if it's denied in the planning commission, then it's probably going to be denied at a council level. Now, after that,
So in the planning commission, so do they look at wetlands or
No.
flood
No.
zone or any of that in
No.
that planning commission?
no.
Do they have a public
No,
hearing
it's-
before they allow a subdivision to be built? That might be one
They-
thing we might want to put in our plan.
I think they do.
Okay, so I can answer that question for you.
Public thing?
But I was
Yeah.
just wanting to see if that
When
planning.
when the preliminary plat is presented to the planning commission, it is a public hearing, and the public is invited to go and comment on whether they feel like that's a good development, or, you know, maybe it's it's gonna, I guess you could say, interfere and impact drainage in the area, they are welcome to go to that. There's public input, there is a public hearing, and you
So-
can participate in that public hearing at that time to make sure that everything that you feel is addressed is addressed.
So backing up
Okay?
real quick,
Go
so
ahead.
there's not ever a point that the council knows wetlands or flood potential at all.
We don't get involved with that.
Okay.
That's
I'm
correct.
just- I'm
That's
just
correct information.
Okay.
We don't get involved with that. Okay? Currently, the current ordinance, we don't get involved with that at this particular moment in time. Now, what I can say is after the preliminary plat is approved, right? Then there's a whole list of requirements depending on what type of division or subdivision or commercial development you're developing, right? So if it's a minor subdivision, or if it's just a commercial development on a couple of acres, or if it's, a subdivision without improvements, typically that's a division of property on a public road, where they're just chopping up lots on a public road. If it's, so many lots and all kind of different variables in there, but basically, there's different requirements for all of those type of divisions and commercial developments. And you're welcome to go look at the Code of Ordinances, which is posted on the internet, right, that details all those requirements, and you can print it out on a document and then mark it up and maybe present it to your councilman and say, hey, man, this is a major problem. I think you need to talk about this and that type of stuff. But getting back to what you were saying, okay, so the parish administration, after the preliminary plat's approved, has a review engineer, right? And basically, it is the reviews engineer in the parish president's administration to work with that developer to make sure that all the requirements that's within the ordinance are abided by, and that it's a good, safe, well-designed development. Now, some of the things I've been hearing y'all talk about, wetlands and dirt fill and all these types of things, I think that's good conversation, that's good discussion, and if you feel like something needs to be changed, you need to present that. You need to communicate that type of thing, I know that the council greatly appreciates public input.
I just wanted to kind of get a general overview.
That's basically how it worked, and I hope I answered your question. But
Yeah.
basically,
Well, my main
when it
question
comes to the
was-
council, it's just a preliminary plat. You know what I mean? It's an undeveloped preliminary plat that kind of outlines the game plan.
Somebody's got to, somewhere someone has to pick up if it's a flood zone or wetland. Because, I see the maps that say flood zone X, AE, whatever it says.
That's the
When you say
engineer's job.
pick up,
That's the engineer's job.
Yeah.
When you review.
When you say, what do you mean by when you say pick up? I
Catch
mean,
it. They should catch that it's in a flood zone. And what is the elevation? Like if it isn't a wetland.
This guy's trying to answer some questions.
Yeah,
right
come
there.
on.
You may be able to answer it better than I can.
I'm reporting this without Fairman Associates.
Yes, sir.
And everything he said is spot on. Preliminary plat is pretty much just an idea, hey, we kind of want to do this.
Okay.
And usually we show the flood zone. Wetlands aren't on it because it's early in the game. If council says no, then we don't
On a
want our
preliminary.
developer spending all that money
On the preliminary part.
but during construction plans, we will know if there are wetlands and where they are, where the flood zone is. We'll do a drainage impact study. We know how much water falls on this property. We know how much water is running across the property and where it's going to wind up. And if 100,000 gallons a minute is our pre-Q, then we will hold the water in a detention pond post-development and not let it out any faster than that. And we'll do that with pipes or weirs or whatever.
And is that a requirement of the parish now?
Yes,
That is a requirement.
yes. So the water leaving the property when we finish is equal to or less than the water leaving the property pre-development. Now, that's how it is on paper. If, if the contractor doesn't build it exactly the way it's engineered,
So is that, is that ever checked, like the final part of it? I know something that the developer's responsible for 18 months, you know, before it gets turned over to the parish. So does the parish come back somewhere?
there is a
and
final inspection.
And they do a due diligence or something and check it?
They should.
Supposed to?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I know that there is a final inspection where they inspect sewer and water. Well, they do that while it's being in place, but I would assume that they do.
So if
If not,
it's- if
probably
that's
should.
happening, why are we having problems with neighborhoods obstructing the flow of natural flow or
I don't
drainage
know. If I knew
areas?
the answer to that, I wouldn't be standing right here.
But
I'd like to comment. In the bottom.
I have some input in
I
the.
really appreciate you coming
Go ahead.
and providing that. That's very, very, very good information. You really put a lot of help
Go
in.
ahead.
One thing I wanted to say is, you know, the developer has an engineer, you know, like he's talking about, that works with the parish administration's review engineer, right, in the planning department to make sure that the requirements of the ordinance is met, right? And like you say, if it's a well-engineered system or design or development, you know, and all the checks and balances are in place, in which I feel pretty confident that the current administration and the parish review engineer group is doing a very good job today. You know, maybe not 20 years ago, but today, I think they're doing a really good job of making sure the developments meet the requirements of the ordinance. And I also want to say that the ordinance committee meetings, we just had one Tuesday night, and that group right there is working very, very, very hard to make positive change when it comes to drainage improvements for, you know, drainage systems in Livingston Parish. And a couple of examples of that is there was an ordinance being introduced Thursday night, or tomorrow night, I guess, and it's making sure that drainage servitudes, the width of drainage servitudes is wide enough, you know, such that, you know, those responsible for maintaining that drainage system, you know, they're able to get in there and maintain. It's basically based upon the diameter of a piece of pipe. You know, you need a certain width drainage servitude for a 60-inch diameter pipe than you do, say, a 18-inch diameter pipe, maybe going through, you know, a drainage servitude. So there's constant improvement there that you could get involved with, whether you're the public or the drainage committee. You know, another one that we've made some positive change on, in my opinion, I can't remember exactly when it was done. I feel confident that it was this council or maybe the previous council. You know, we gave the gravity drainage districts the ability to review the drainage plans, and so that they agree that the development kind of meets or works with their drainage systems, right? Y'all got a couple of people on the drainage boards up here, right? Y'all do have that. Y'all have an engineer in addition to the engineer that's developing the subdivision, in addition to the review engineer, right? That's looking at these developments, making sure that they comply and work with the drainage systems of Livingston Parish. So I feel like, you know, there's probably some changes that need to be made. I mean, it's all a work in progress, right? But I feel like, you know, that there's checks and balances in place to in an effort to make sure that developments are, you know, drain well. Now, let me say this. I think this is very, very important to know. You're talking about the LA Forms deal. 80% of Livingston Parish, I've heard me say it over and over and over, 80% of Livingston Parish is in an unfunded gravity drainage district. We don't have that gravity drainage engineer looking at the development in Marpaw, Louisiana.
So
to
instead of
make
having
sure
3 engineers, you only have 2.
you only have 2. You have the engineer that designed it,
And the one that the developers
and,
paid.
and you have the review engineer that works for the parish to make sure that it met, you know, the requirements of the ordinance. But you don't have a gravity drainage district engineer reviewing it to make sure that it
Drainage.
meets the drainage or works with the drainage systems of Livingston Parish. It's a really big deal not to have that funded gravity drainage district. It's going to work out here in the near future, but that's just one of the things that I think needs to happen. Another thing, I'm gonna bring forth to the council too, we talk about these retention ponds and they're well-designed today. We got good engineers developing them, good review engineers making sure that it's designed and constructed well. But in my opinion, there's no maintenance on these retention ponds. Because what happens is, from what I understand, and we need to go make sure this is accurate information, but from what I understand, it's the HOA's responsibility to make sure that the retention pond, is maintained such that it works as it's designed. But as HOAs fail and can't maintain their own retention pond, well then it kind of falls on the gravity drainage district, right? But then, is it really the responsibility of the gravity drainage district, right? Or was it the HOA? And if it is the gravity drainage district's responsibility, where do they get the funding to go in there and maintain that? So I think that we as a group, kind of need to work with the Livingston Parish Council to try to implement some type of, if a developer develops a subdivision or commercial development and there's a retention pond and, and he chooses to maintain it, right, then good. But the minute that particular HOA or individual
Let's just say they don't have
refuses
let's
to
say-
maintain
let's say
it,
they don't have an HOA though, okay, and then. the parish
we're in
takes-
trouble. We're in trouble.
But the parish is collecting property taxes off of that, so there's money somewhere.
Okay, well, that's another subject, and I don't want to take 4 hours talking about it, but, okay, those taxes the parish is collecting are not for drainage. Okay?
But I mean, it's-
That's earmarked for road and bridges, that's earmarked for road
That
drainage
200 acres,
and
they
related
pay
road
1,100 a
drainage,
year property
that's
taxes, now
earmarked.
they're getting 1,100 a house.
Say that again?
That 200 acres that the person was paying $1,100 a year property taxes on, now it has 40 houses at 2,000 a house. I mean, it's a lot of money coming in.
And that's a very true fact, right? And some of that goes to gravity drainage districts, right? And so I don't know, it depends on if you're getting a millage fee or not, I think that's something we need to talk about because, there needs to be a way to maintain those retention ponds because if you don't, they're gonna have a negative impact on the surrounding areas. There's no way
And
to
look, I
argue
agree
against
with
that.
you, but my thought is that if the parish is taking over the roads that a developer builds,
True.
the detention pond should be the parishes as well. That's why they're in on the planning of it for the drain, at the beginning.
Okay, well, I would like to, I'd like for, you say it is, you say they should.
I don't know.
Let's go find out, because I'm being told that's not true.
There
That it's-
have been discussions about that. I think that should be taken up in the ordinance.
Yeah, that needs to be taken up somewhere else, but I don't believe that to be true.
Once the parish accepts the subdivision, it sets the drainage, just like y'all.
But gravity drainage districts are responsible for the off-road drainage.
Right.
The parish is responsible for the road drainage.
But that's,
So do we as a committee
if we have.
want to say that we recommend to the council that they take up the roads, they take up the detention pond? Is that what we want to do?
Okay,
Okay.
somebody gotta make a
Yes.
motion, we gotta vote.
What's that?
Make a motion.
I would
I
like
think
to
that-
make a motion that we discontinue talking about this and vote on it. And that we vote on bringing to the parish council that if y'all take up a road, that you take up the detention pond. You take up everything in the subdivision that has to do with water.
I think we should talk about that.
I think that's a recommendation that should go to the ordinance committee, not, shouldn't it go through the ordinance committee before it gets to the council?
Most definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I make a motion that we present this to the ordinance committee,
recommendation.
a recommendation to the ordinance committee, that if the parish takes up roads, they take up the detention as well.
So we have a motion on the floor that if the parish, takes responsibility for the new neighborhood road, they will also take care of the detention pond and drainage, or retention, detention, whichever way it's going. And
I got a question. Are we
Question.
making a recommendation for them to review this, or we make a recommendation that that's what they should do?
You
Well,
can't
because I'm
tell
not
them
sure-
what to do, you can only make a recommendation.
But,
And an ordinance
Well-
committee only makes a recommendation to the
Right.
council, then the council votes on the ordinance committee's recommendation.
They're gonna review it before they say yes
right,
anyway,
so But we're saying that we feel like that's what should happen.
Yes, that's our recommendation.
If
that-
we vote on it and approve it, we still have to vote on it. I say yay.
I second it.
Call for a vote.
We have a
Yeah.
second.
Call for a vote.
Mr. Marlowe?
Call for a vote, yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison? Ms. Pat?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
No.
Stephen?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Ernie?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion also, something we've discussed, is we request the parish to consider doing a watershed study on the major waterways. So we'll know how many cubic feet and how many inches of each rain that we can expect, so we know how to plan these things.
So we have a motion on the floor
That's it.
to do studies.
Does that study need to be a little bit more clear? That seems like a wide open, it seems like the whole, it just be.
We need to know what the water flow is on the waterways.
Right.
I mean, if he calls on you,
Mr. Morrow.
Yes, sir. Come up to the podium.
That water flow that y'all want to do and calculate stuff is fine for all of y'all that live north of that interstate. Don't pretend to the ones of us that live south of the interstate. Because if you got one heck of an east wind, that water ain't going nowhere.
That's why you get blue crabs up the river.
That's exactly right. So when that water's coming down, when it meets the headwaters that's coming out of Lake Marpaw, it just stands there.
Absolutely. If
When
not,
I-
it comes up.
When I was a kid, we didn't have title changes in Springfield and up towards Albany. You didn't have none of that. Now, in a period of about 3 or 4 days, you can have 4 to 5 foot of water difference in
With no
stuff.
rain.
With no rain. I've had higher water on my place from an east wind than I've ever had in any hurricane or the 2016 flood.
Well, Al Gore told us all the ice caps are melting, the rivers, the lakes are rising, whatever, the seas are rising.
I don't know what's, well, I do know what's going on. I mean,
Mr. Horvath.
if you take and you look at the destruction of the coastline, because when I was a young fellow, I could walk from the mouth of Amite to the mouth of the Tickfaw River on the beach. Now, there's places that you would be floating way above your head if you tried to make that walk, because there is no beach. So you got a lot of destruction, and if you look at aerial views, those sticks that you see all over that lake swamp are trees that have died and fell over. Okay, and it's a major difference. It's just like what I said about the guy pumping the water and then killing his strawberries. Well, that's just how much it's changed. And whenever you have those east winds like that and stuff, I mean, if you hadn't lived it, it's hard to believe. But, you know, I mean, I've been here all my life and stuff, and it is. I mean, it's just a major, major change when you're talking about those east winds nowadays and stuff. And if you get rain on top of that, you're really in trouble.
Thank you.
Request the parish to do a water flow study. Parish council to do a water flow study on the major waterways. So we'll know how much water each one expects under each condition. Similar to the one that's being done in District 2 right now.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any seconds?
Second.
A second from Mr. McMorris.
Mr. Marlowe?
I'm gonna vote yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Clemens?
Hey, they're calling for vote.
yeah,
Mr. Morrison?
we count the river.
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Ernie?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Input into the ordinance situation. And we're working on developing the ordinance. I know from read as much as I can gather foot was base flood elevation, my house was 50 foot. Changed it after Katrina, it went to 52, and I'm in floodplain. Now 16 flood, I've got to go to 6 foot, or I got to tear the house down. I don't have a choice. How can they pass ordinances to turn around and let them build a house, knowing that it is going to go under if, and they wonder why FEMA's threatening to pull the insurance from the back. So my question is why is the ordinance committee addressing this issue with these new subdivisions and developments? From what I heard going to the gravity train before, District 1, that has been prior existing, anything that was, if it was put in file with the planning commission 5, 6, 7 years ago,
It's grandfather.
it's all excluded. So that's pretty much all you build and develop in the parish for it.
But how are they coming up with the 6 foot number, would be my question.
Flood record.
FEMA is requiring that for him to get insurance.
FEMA.
Not FEMA, that ain't
FEMA, not the
building.
parish,
It's not the
FEMA.
parish, it's FEMA.
But it's gonna affect us in the long run as all citizens of the community, of the parish that are paying taxes.
That's where my
Paying-
oversight committee of the council and the mayor are gonna come together and fix all that one day.
That's
So-
an
so
issue that's
the
right
super-
there.
the
So,
super-
so how do you build,
Left hand doesn't know what the right means.
but how do you,
Exactly.
like the houses around the corner, how do you build them up 6 foot high? You put them on piers, you put
Just
them on
like
dirt?
they're gonna do on mine.
How they
They
do
can
theirs?
build them.
On dirt?
No, they're gonna jack it up on beers,
Anything over 3.5 feet's gotta be some structure.
just like all the ones.
So when you're 75 years old, you got bad knees, you gotta go up and down them steps.
You get an elevator,
And is it
Are you
wetlands
moved
on
to
top
the-
of that?
They won't buy your house out, they won't give you any money for your house?
No.
We ever doing that business?
well, I built a big shop
Yes.
there, but when I built my shop, I built it up to base with elevation, so I had to do that to get the permit.
But that's, to me, I mean, that's.
I'd like to make a motion that we discuss, business item number 3B
Yeah.
We trying-
before 8 o'clock.
I'm trying to move along.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Mr. Robert Morris's request, 3B. We're gonna let Ms. Pat take
Okay.
this one by the reins.
I can kind of summarize this, give a Reader's Digest thing, since we're running late, if that's okay with y'all. But these are.
Perfect. Let
This
me-
is just some points we touched on, I left out profile picture and all that stuff. But what I would like to propose is, we can all be administrators of this, but we can add that later. So what if I can have like 2 other people to form a little committee with me, and we can get our Facebook page with all of the details by the next meeting or before, through email, to let y'all know what's
I
up.
tell you-
Or do y'all wanna discuss what we're aiming for with the Facebook and all that at this late?
I got an idea. Listen, I'd like to propose a Facebook page, or just have everybody say, hey, Ron, I'll put it together. Or probably Miss Pat, the 2 of us can do it.
Right, and
If
we,
nobody
and
else, it
one
doesn't
other
take
person.
anything to
We
run
need one
it.
other
We'll
person.
just put it up. And so basically what we talked about was putting a Facebook group page together. And,
It's gonna
and
be a
honestly,
group,
I
yeah.
want everybody in Livingston Ranch and Raves to be in this. I want putting out ideas. We're adults. There's a bunch of childish fools on that page that like to
Yeah, we're gonna
banter,
filter
and that's
ours.
fine. They can banter on their page.
Yeah,
We'll have ability to delete on ours. That's fine. You know, everything
Or we'll
has its own
filter.
place.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion to approve, Facebook page?
I don't know, if this needs to be something that is recommended to the council for approval.
I don't think we need approval.
asked
I don't think we need to
Randy,
vote for
and
it.
he
I think we
said
just need
no.
to talk
He said
about.
no. Okay.
Randy said no.
Okay, I just
Yeah,
wanted
but
to.
you can ask Shane, he might know.
Shane doesn't Facebook.
I don't
Okay.
I
think-
just wanna, okay, I just wanna
I
make sure that
asked,
someone.
I actually texted Shane and Randy that last night, and he said no.
Okay, I just.
I don't think we need approval
But-
for anything. It's just
but-
us as citizens wanting to do a Facebook.
We're not
page.
asking, we're not
But
asking for
you'll
money.
be here tomorrow, if, ask them, and if that's different, will you let
Yeah,
us know?
So I'm looking for a
it might not
motion.
be. I just.
No, I was worried about
Open
that
up
too.
Facebook for
We're nobodies though. We're
not
a
a
citizen
Well,
group.
I think we're going
And
for
we're-
education.
We are formed as a part of the Livingston we are the Livingston Parish Drainage Committee, and we were appointed by council members. So I think we do have some legal affiliation with the parish government.
I'm gonna let Ms. Pat run then.
I don't think it'll be an issue, I just.
Yeah.
was-
No.
But I
wanted
think
to
that
bring
I think it should be clarified whether it's an issue or not.
I think so too, because Randy had said it was not an issue, but if you could find that out for us
Yeah,
tomorrow,
no, I don't-
that would be great,
Y'all
and just
can
drop
vote
us
to
an
do the
email.
thing, and I'll-
Yeah, because we're not
So
gonna do
can we
anything
get a
between
motion
now.
for a Facebook page pending approval? from the-
Pending approval, yes.
Pending approval.
Can I get a motion for that?
Motion.
Second.
Mike, David, please.
I make a motion and we'll do a little Facebook page with this drainage committee group,
Pending approval.
pending approval of the council.
Lauren, you don't have to call roll every time either. You just
No, yeah,
ask for
if
nays.
y'all want to
Just
say.
Yes, second.
You got your say. But just saying, just ask
All-
for saying nays.
All yeas,
Yeah.
any nays, motion passed. Any other business? Anybody got anything in the audience?
Audience?
Anybody?
We can talk to each other. Y'all
Going
good?
once?
Any concerns, comments?
I still like the chocolate we had.
I make a
first
motion
night.
to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, adjourn.